Hello everyone, nubkeks here. Welcome back to Nub Raids, and in today's video, as we do for every fusion, we're going to be breaking down the fragment event calendar for Eostrid Dreamsong. And yeah, talking you through, because I think there are a few tricks in here, so I want to sort of prepare you for those. Also very interesting. Okay, this is really interesting. This has just come up on my Discord channel. I can link to the Discord down below. Um, yeah, one of my one of the members of the Discord just shared this. Purchase rewards, you get extra stuff. Sachi for 30, like, yeah, an extra Sachi if you spend 35 pounds, British pounds, which is probably more like $40, I would say. Probably similar, €40, $40. Sachi's not great. She looks nice, obviously, She's got a couple of things going for her. But I don't know. That's a weird one. He said it's just popped up about 5 minutes ago. That's crazy. So anyway, that's an interesting one. That's very interesting. But here we are. We've got the. Let's talk about the fusion for Eostrid Dreamsong. I will get a initial first impressions video out on her later on. I certainly think she's a very, very, very solid fusion, particularly for Hydra. More progression for Arena, but I think she's a great champion. Really good. Seems like a lot of people just not that excited about her. But I think she's definitely worth picking up, right? For me, such a versatile Hydra champion, it's definitely worth it. But we'll talk about that more in the video. Let's look at this first, how difficult she is to get. Now, the most interesting thing, we talked about this in yesterday's video. I'm in the wrong tool. There we go. They have swapped, we talked about this yesterday, Champion Chase and Summon Rush. So this is 2x Ancient. Write this in. Beautiful. It's all clear now. The Giant's T at the end. On this Summon Rush, we don't know. What is interesting to me about this is we have quite frequently now been having a Hero's Path event within the fusion that is giving you the fusion soul. That is not happening this time. There is no Hero's Path as part of this. This is also doubly interesting. We talked about this in the video yesterday. Because they pushed the Summon Rush further on, it's not uncommon to have Summon Rush be part of these Heroes' Paths. So what I am actually expecting, and I say this is something that might catch you out, if I was Plarium, and this is guesswork from me, but if I was Plarium, what would I do? What I would do is, after the fusion, I'd be doing a Titan event. For the Titan event, I would give a 5-star soul, maybe even just a 4-star soul, and maybe an Eternal Soulstone. I don't know. But I'd definitely be doing a Titan event with the soul for Eostrid Dreamsong in there. That's what I would do. And I would do a Hero's Path as part of that Titan event, which would give you a lot of Titan event points, obviously. But I would personally be putting in, because I think he's insane, this new guy, Atharian. I would do it as a... who do they have? Grand Oak Podrick was a similar one. They did a very similar event as well for Alatrion Blade Master. I would do a Giant Hero's Path, which had his soul, a 5-star soul, and the champion, and Titan event points for the soul for the chick for this current fusion. I put them all in the one thing and have it be massive and really expensive because this guy is crazy, right? And that's the thing. If they do that, that would be my goal. Honestly, that would be the goal. It's pure speculation. This guy is so good that they might not give him away as a guaranteed. But if they do, and like they've been doing pretty insane like Grand Oak Podrick is fantastic. White King Narcisse is fantastic, right? They've been doing extremely good champions as guaranteed. I could easily see them do a massive event for him plus his soul in the one thing, which would likely be most likely champion training. There could be souls involved, soul stones involved as well. There could be shards. Those are like the 3 big ones. Maybe Dungeon Divers comes in sometimes. But they're like the 3 big ones. So I'd be prepared for all of those in case they do this guy. I think it's even a gamble that's worth taking, right? Because I think this guy gives immense value. Like he's got a double hit enemy max HP nuke that does block buffs and decrease attack. And he fills his turn meter. He can mischief tank. This guy... he's crazy good. He's crazy good. So I think you definitely want 95, even more, 99% of people would really, really, really want him. So that's something I want to do during this fusion for me is to try as much as possible to conserve resources to be ready for that event. So that's what we're going to be doing. Let's look at this then. So here we go. Back into the fusion plan. We've got 20 from, let's forget about the tournament leaderboards. So forget about that. So we have 110 fragments up for grabs. Means we can skip 15. Sorry, not 15. We can skip 10 only. But there are 15 in the champion chase, and there are 15 in the summon rush. So you cannot fully skip either one. You can partially skip either one. Now here's the thing. I'm actually sort of changing my opinion, honestly, on these. Maybe it's because I'm later in the game and I've got more shards. So, certainly for a more later game player, I think it's probably actually worth doing both of these. 2x Ancients has relatively low opportunity costs. Ancients aren't super good. Like, the best thing you use Ancients for, typically, is simply a 1+1 Ancient event, right? It's nice, but there's not that crazy of a difference that you feel too bad about pulling a bunch of Ancients for 2x Ancients to max out the champion chase. I think that's worth doing. I think actually for everybody, it's probably worth getting the 15 fragments from the champion chase because it makes the rest of the fusion easier as well. Rather than skipping your 10 fragments at the start and then being stuck, I think 2x Ancients is easy to do. We'll obviously see what the points are like tomorrow. Maybe the points will be crazy high and I'll go, oh, actually, never mind. It's crazy points. But assuming that most people will be able to have saved up enough Ancients to do this, I think this champion chase, you should actually probably get all the points for that. And then you are set to skip 10 points wherever you want in the future. Summon Rush is definitely possible. For me, they have tended to put the Summon Rush points pretty close together, where it's like 5 fragments for, let's say, 4 Sacred Shards, and then another 10 fragments for 3 more Sacred Shards. Like, they tend to make it fairly close. They've been pushing the lower points in Summon Rush up, I feel. So I wouldn't want to rely on it because they could have the top points be really high, and I wouldn't want to do that. So I like doing the Champ Chase, and then probably planning to do all of the Summon Rush, and then most likely, you know, skipping the Dungeon Divers. I think is pretty high value. You could skip like Ice Golem and Dungeon Divers, and that saves you a lot of energy that you can then put into getting food ready for a potential massive champion training tournament for Atharion Wallmaster, which I think is, or Wallmaster Atharion, or Orthmaster Waltharion. I don't know. You could do all that sort of stuff. So that would be sort of my vibe. So for me, I think I will definitely, let's do a green tick. I would definitely max all this out. And then I would get at least 5 here, but I would probably be getting most of it. Or again, you could potentially skip. And I would be looking at potentially skipping this Dungeon Divers would be my choice. And then I suppose you would, again, probably pair that with skipping Ice Golem. Ice Golem is a really good dungeon to farm, so you're not too far off, but that would be my vibe. But again, you can adjust. If the Summon Rush is too hard, get 5 fragments from it, and then you can do the Ice Golem and the Dungeon Divers. But Dungeon Divers 3, for me, is the one to skip for sure. Let's look at that. Let's look at that next. So we've got the Dungeon Divers. This is the tricky part, always. One of the trickier parts about this as well. Shards and Dungeon Divers, which is... Dungeon Divers is just a huge, huge energy sink. Dungeon Divers 3 overlaps with Ice Golem, and that's it. So it's Ice Golem plus Dungeon Divers. Of course, as we know, probably maxing out the Ice Golem tournament is only going to get you like half the points you need for Dungeon Divers. Like, they're very intensive. Dungeon Divers 2 partially overlaps with Dragon for basically 1 day. So whenever Dragon starts on Wednesday. So you got a little bit of overlap there. And then Dungeon Divers 2, it also overlaps with Spider. Dungeon Divers 1 is also going to overlap. In fact, Spider overlaps with both Dungeon Divers. And a Fire Knight is also going to overlap here as well. I would not be doing Fire Knight today, right? Say Fire Knight for Dungeon Divers 1 tomorrow, and Dungeon Divers 1 goes live. Crank out your Fire Knight, get lots of points, and then, yeah, you could finish some off with Champ Training. You could finish some off with Spider, whatever you need to do to get Dungeon Divers 1 done. Finish off Spider with Dungeon Divers 2, and then you'd have to be ready on Wednesday to go pretty hard with Dragon and Dungeon Divers 2 to get it done. Honestly, even worst case scenario, right? If you miss Dungeon Divers 2, you could always skip Dungeon Divers 2 and 3, do everything else, and get your points that way. That could be an option as well. But they are the Dungeon Divers, so that's what's going on there. Let's cover a couple of freebies to make this look easier, because we've been touching on the hard stuff first. The Classic Arena, we've got 2 of them. These have always been or they are at the moment, they're all very easy. So, just do your classic arena fights and it's done. We have, let's put in a dark green. We've got 3 artifact enhancements. So you want to save your silver for this, and you should be okay. I think that so long as you're not rolling up gear outside of them and you stop as soon as you get the fragments, it should be pretty doable, honestly. Yeah, I think that's the main way people trip up, is they spend all of their stuff and have nothing left. And then we've got the final, which are the champion training events. People don't like doing these. These are obviously an intensive grind as well. I think it's up to you. I think it's up to you in terms of which you're gonna do. Let's say we'll definitely do the first one. I think get the first one done. I think that's kind of a gimme. It overlaps at Champion Chase as well, so you'll get some Champion Chase points, right? Grinding campaign, feeding foods, using your mystery shards. So that will actually help you out a bunch. That's good. The second champion is a training event. That one is maybe skippable, perhaps. It's 10 fragments. You could skip the second one. I think that makes a bit more sense. And it's sort of the question of which is going to cost more energy, doing the champion training or doing the dungeon divers. I would suspect the I would rather skip dungeon divers than skip champion training, especially because I can prep like a bunch of 3-star food, a bunch of 4-star food ready to go in this champion training event, and I can prepare myself for the next champion training tournament, right? You can use this one to prepare. So yeah, whereas dungeon divers, doing dungeon divers doesn't help you do the next dungeon divers. It just makes it harder because you've spent all your energy. So that's my sort of feeling on this one. Yeah, I don't think there's anything more else to add. It is a fragment fusion, so it is fairly straightforward, luckily. Again, crux, the issue is you can skip 10 fragments. I would personally be looking at the Dungeon Divers 3 for sure. And then the other one is more optional. I mean, you could even do Ice Golem. And like Ice Golem's not even that bad, honestly. Ice Golem's fine. So I would definitely skip Dungeon Divers 3 myself, and the rest, I'd say that or Summon Rush. Are you stuck on energy or are you stuck on shards? Whichever one. And I'd be trying to do the rest of the stuff. Of course, if you do extra, it's not so bad. You can always trade them in for some mod fragments, which you might get at some point. Who knows? But I'm certainly these mod fragments over here. But yeah, I think she's a great fusion. She's worth going for. As I said, though, at the start, the possibility for an Atharion event, that is very tempting because, yeah, I think even the possibility of them doing an event for him, considering how good, none of the heroes have strings on their bows. It's very sad. Considering that the guaranteed champs have been so strong this year, even the fusions, just all the champions they're putting in are so strong. I don't think it's out of the realms of possibility at all that we get an event for this guy. And I would be prioritizing that basically above everything. I would probably go, if you are early enough in the game that you're saying, nope, I can't do both. I would say that the Wallmaster event is likely to be very hard. I think this fusion doesn't look that crazy hard. And I think if you're early enough in the game that you cannot guarantee that you could do the guaranteed for Wallmaster Atharion, you're probably early enough in the game where this chick's going to make a really big difference, right? I think if you're late game, and I don't know, you're lazy, you don't want to do both, or you just don't want to do both, or you might be low on resources, but you are late game and you'll build them back up. You may or may not need her. Like I've seen some people say, I don't need her for my Hydra teams, and that's fair. If you've got more powerful champions, then sure. But I think for most people, she's worth putting in. Like increase speed, decrease speed, the weaken. It's a very, very solid kit. With turn meter boosting and stuff as well. She's very, very solid for Hydra. I really do think most people would use her in some teams. And again, your teams can change as things go as well. That being said, there are more powerful champions, of course, but she's really good. A+ at least for Hydra, S- maybe. Probably wouldn't put her like S+ with the absolute best of the best. Like best of the best is getting kind of insane these days, right? Like, there's a lot of power creep, so she probably isn't S+ or anything close, but S- maybe, A+. Very strong. Anyway, that's some of my thoughts on that. We're waffling. You get the point. You get the gist. Let me know if I've missed anything or if you've got any other tips, but that is sort of what I am aiming to do. And yeah, I'll see you next time. Goodbye.